The red pill movement to this point has undoubtedly done plenty of good for the world. It has made plenty of men more masculine. It has encouraged women to become more feminine. Lots of good things. There are also lots of extreme negatives to it, right? A lot of us like to try to ignore this. We like to just look at the positives and just kind of go on our way and be like, yeah, we're part of this. Because we want to feel included in something, some kind of movement that's actually making an impact. So, we just look at the positives and ignore some of the negatives. But they need to be addressed. And this clip from the Whatever podcast, I think, does a really good job at addressing that. So, yeah, we're just going to watch that. So, we're going to hop right into it. If you don't know what the Whatever podcast is, it's just a dating podcast, pretty much. There's like 100 of them, Fresh and Fit is one. But yeah, also John Doyle's on here, so that's dope. But we'll get all right on into it.
So,
Good
Destiny,
points.
did you think she had like a, is there like a gangbang or something?
Like,
Is that-
anything
okay,
like that. I've seen this.
Destiny, why do you hate Andrew Tate?
Why do I hate Andrew Tate? One is because I don't like the message he sells people. Two is because
What's the message?
I wish that we could sell self-improvement without making everything so narrow in scope. Like, there are so many different paths to success. And to be fair, I've seen him give kind of contradictory messages on this. I saw him have a conversation with Sneeko, for instance, where he was very open about, like, it's not every man's life journey to become, like, the CEO of a major company. Some people need to be plumbers, whatever, which is good. But then in other videos, it always feels like the markers for success are the most materialistic, like, bankrupt, like, spiritually bankrupt things in the world.
So this is like so true. This is the biggest problem with the red pill movement. It completely ignores God and the importance of God in society for one. It doesn't actually realize the psychological importance of spirituality and its real control over all of us. It fails to realize that. So it focuses incredibly materialistically. Like the red pill movement started off as a way to like help guys like get girls pretty much. That's what it was at its very roots. But it's moved away from that to this point where it's almost like a gay thing, where it's just like guys are like ignore women, go and make bank, and then just do that forever, and then impress other men with your money, right? And yeah, it's like this weird gay thing where they all want to like impress each other, and they just forgot about, creating the family, right? Marrying a nice traditional woman. They all want to go out and live these like promiscuous lives, and then they never find a traditional woman, so they're never actually able to raise kids and make a real dent into society. Instead, they just gained all of this materialistic wealth, which they could show off to other men.
I agree.
Right.
And that bothers me. And then two, assuming that he's not lying about everything he said online, he's undoubtedly a sex trafficker, which I think is kind of shitty. So.
Well, here's Destiny. I mean, we all know him. So this is his part where he kind of falls apart. He's a liberal. He says like some weirdly smart things randomly, and it just weirds me out because he says something that's just like conservative and super based. And then he just like flips the switch and his brain just like shuts off, and then he goes back on for like 30 seconds, and then he has 20 minutes more of just being a libtard. I don't know. It's not important to this conversation specifically, but yeah, that's just Destiny being Destiny.
So, but there is the chance that he
Gotta
has
back that
lied.
up,
We
bro.
don't have a
Gotta back
conviction
that
yet.
up.
That's a
We can talk about it all night.
big
long.
accusation. That's a
Slander.
huge accusation. That's a huge accusation.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
You wanna go into it?
he's been investigated by the authorities, and they didn't find any evidence.
He's still under
Well,
investigation.
hold on.
The
That's
cops
not.
were
Wait. To be clear, it's not true. They didn't find any evidence.
I never find any real evidence, let's be honest. Even though I'm not the biggest Andrew Tate supporter, like, I don't love everything he says. Like, everything that I just said of 30 seconds ago applies completely to Andrew Tate. But yeah, this investigation seems to be fraudulent at best.
They found enough evidence to continue to detain him while they finish their investigation. To be clear.
Fair.
Or is that true?
Yeah, for
That is
legal-
true.
yeah,
That's
for-
what's going on in Romania,
for
number one.
legal purposes,
Number two,
it's-
plenty of people have done crimes that get away with it and don't get convicted, which is fine. Now, ordinarily, I wouldn't
Wait,
say...
can we back up?
Sure.
What was the evidence that they found that justified continually
No, it's
detaining
not
him?
publicly
It's not
stated
public
yet.
yet.
Don't believe it's public yet because
No,
that's
it's
part of the
not.
investigative process,
Yeah.
right? So they've had to show stuff to a panel of judges, and they have to make the decision. Do we think you have enough here that there's likely to be charges coming at the end of it? And so far in Romania, the court system has said, yes, we do believe that to be the case. And I think they've got 3 months left to finally press charges, and if they don't, then the charges are dropped, or the case is dropped, and he's free to
Don't
leave.
they only have like 1 or 2?
They might have 1 or 2 months left. I don't
Because
know
I
how
think it
long
was in
it's been.
December. Madison, do you want to
So
join
no,
us at the
let me
table?
ask. Can I?
Or-
I want to.
Actually, Madison, just stay there.
Can I build on something
yeah.
with that with him? So what is the overarching message of Andrew Tate that
patriarchy
you
in action.
don't support?
I wish that when we talked about delivering like purpose to young men, it wasn't wrapped up in such a materialistic package.
I
Because
agree.
it feels like that's what's led to a lot of like. So I'm a big capitalist and I'm a big liberal, but arguably one of the largest criticisms you can launch at liberalism and capitalism is this hyper-consumerist, hyper-materialist mindset.
Agree with you.
He's completely right. Even though I am myself a capitalist, it is incredibly consumerist. It is incredibly materialistic. Not saying that any other economic system isn't. They all are. They are all incredibly, incredibly materialistic. And the ones that aren't just end up failing to give the people the resources they need to actually survive and take all freedoms away. Capitalism is undoubtedly the best economic system from anything that we have been presented to us to this point. But yeah, it's materialistic, and as it grows, as you see like these transnational corporations move in, it only becomes worse. And that's the importance of, keeping everything local, small town. It's a lot better, obviously. But yeah, that's the danger of the wide reach of capitalism. It starts to become more and more materialistic as it grows.
You need to buy the next iPhone. You need to buy the next car. I really wish that, like, for Andrew Tate, if you wanted to sell this message of becoming like a fulfilling person, like, show yourself working and doing honorable things.
Yeah.
Show yourself having a virtuous life, right? Show
See, that's such a great thing to say. That's one of the biggest problems of Andrew Tate. He doesn't actually live with any good virtue, right? Like, sure, he works hard. That we can't really deny that. I mean, we can see it. We just look at him. You can tell he's a hardworking guy. He wouldn't have gotten to the point he's got to without the hard work. But he does not live a virtuous life. He does not live a life of God. He promotes God all the time, right? But like he still will go and sleep around and then take advantage of other people's weakness. I mean, that's how he's made all of his money, by taking advantage of others men's weakness. Literally all of Andrew Tate's money has came from taking advantage of weaker men and men who did not have self-control instead of guiding them. And then he also just takes advantage of women all of the time.
Show yourself building a real business, not doing like cam girls and getting rich that way, or not doing casinos. Show yourself having like a virtuous life, not bragging you've got 20 girlfriends. Show yourself like engaged in virtuous activities that
See, like, the problem with Destiny, though, is this guy will talk about living a virtuous life and be like, oh, yeah, do all this. And then he goes and lets his girlfriend go sleep around, or not even his wife go and sleep with other men and women. It's so weird. Everything is weird about this guy. He's so inconsistent. I don't understand him.
people can embody, that can be the embodiment of what young men should pursue, rather than constantly bragging about how many cars and women and all that shit you have.
So that's a great point. I totally agree with that. And a follow-up question I have is, like, part of Andrew Tate's appeal is he's speaking authoritatively about all of these different things when it comes to masculinity, the way the world works, so on and so forth. And there's a lot of people that are doing that online. But Andrew Tate is constantly flashing his wealth, his cars, his houses, the girls he's with, so on and so forth. How can someone get to that place where they're influential like he is and garner that interest from an audience the way that he did without flashing all of those materialistic things?
I think you can do it, but I think a lot of people don't try. The reality is that Andrew Tate is a really fucking funny guy. He's very charismatic. He's very charming, and he can do a lot of really funny content. He's done a lot of the fucking video where his brother is like, "I'm gonna break the Red Bull fucking record." I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Or the one where he was saying he was going to make Meghan Markle make him some chicken.
Sure, yeah, there's like, I haven't seen that one, so I don't want to co-sign
So
that.
funny.
But there are so many
Hilarious.
videos that he's done that are really funny. I think he probably could have gotten relatively big doing that, but the problem is that you're making a deal with the devil when you say, I'm going to sell my soul a little bit to gain some level of popularity. Because what happens is on your journey to becoming that person that's getting popular enough to sell the message you want to sell, the message is going to get lost.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, when I look at Andrew Tate and I'm talking to a young man, well, how do you want to be successful? I want to be successful like Andrew Tate. What do you have to do? You've got to start a cam business and do gambling and sell alcohol and drugs and shit, right? Because that's essentially like what his whole business revolved around, was like,
Yeah, see, like his entire business is taking advantage of other people, and then he goes and promotes that. He says, "Make money by taking advantage of people," which he's right about, right? That's the best and easiest way you could say to make a crap ton of money, especially in a short-ish amount of time. You have to do some bad things to gain the type of power and influence and wealth that Andrew Tate has managed to gain over time. but it's not virtuous. It's not the right thing, and it's not. It. He has to sell his soul a little bit, and he'll get in Destiny. We'll get into that in a second here, but yeah, it's not a virtuous way to live, and he promotes this negative, all this negativity, and he tells men to follow him in this path of just taking advantage of people. And we talk about how feminism destroys the community because it absolutely does. It teaches women to put their family below their career. The red pill movement does the exact same thing, but for men. It's like the equivalent of feminism for men. It tells men to ditch women, ditch kids, ditch the family unit, ditch their community, and put their career and put money above all else.
Casino stuff, working with mob people, and then doing like cam girl stuff. And so, what kind of message are you actually selling, right, to young boys, saying that's the path to success?
So
I totally
in his
agree.
defense, he was doing the Hustlers University, which was
Yeah.
18 modern wealth creation methods, which was like copywriting, drop shipping.
But that's
you know.
after he made his fortune.
It was
doing
after he made his
cam girl
fortune. So
stuff.
what's the message?
So,
right?
so I agree, but that's like during his upwards, like, I think it was during summer of last year, during his meteoric rise, he was constantly saying, like, join Hustlers or University where you can find these 18.
And even that, even Hustlers University was a way to teach men things that you could just find free online. He was just taking advantage of lazy people who weren't willing to do their own research and dig for themselves, that just wanted to be commanded. Which, like, is it a bad thing? Not necessarily. But he was still just taking advantage of weak people to make his money. He hasn't made any money by not doing that. At least not from what I've seen.
Modern wealth creating methods. So I understand that you're saying, like, because you have to factor in some things too. Like, he was saying those things intentionally, knowing that they were inflammatory in order to go viral, which is part, I mean, you're streaming, this is part of the game, right?
So this is what you have to be really careful about. And it's something I think about a lot too. Like I said, you're trading parts of your soul every time you're trying to achieve a certain level of fame. And if you've traded away too many parts, there's not enough of you left to sell the message at the end. There are things that you can do to achieve a level of fame, to enact a good message, but if you've sold away too many parts of yourself to get there, you kind of lose the ability to sell the message at that point, right?
There's-
Yeah, and I
there's
agree
a
with you
Bible
on that.
verse.
I agree with you on that statement too, in regards to that. But I don't necessarily think he was saying, like, sure, one of the modern 18th, wealth creation methods was start a cam business, right? Manage your girls' OnlyFans. He went viral for saying,
And he
like,
had, before Hustlers University, there was the
PhD.
in trafficking women, basically.
Well,
I mean, like, it kind of was, right?
I mean,
So I'm saying, like,
I
when
don't
that's your
think.
message- and then when him and Tristan are openly bragging about, like, oh, this is how we get these men, and we make them come back every time by scamming them with
Right.
their cam girls, I'm like, oh.
So that's also a cultural norm in Romania.
Yeah.
Like,
Alright, the conversation here just kind of starts to lose its grip, and it starts to become less interesting, to be completely honest with you. Everything that was really important was already said, so I'm gonna cut it off right here. But, yeah, like I was saying, look, I have promoted Andrew Tate in the past, and I still believe he has done plenty of good for the movement. He has taught lots of men to become more masculine. He's gotten people back in the gym. He's told them to live healthier lives. But we have to address the negatives at the same time. We can't pretend like it's all good. It would be it would be ignorant. It would be blind to pretend like he was all good. It would be a form of idolization, and we need to be careful not to idolize men. It's not something that is healthy for our society. We can recognize the goods while still calling out the negative parts of what he's promoting. And the negative parts is this materialistic lifestyle, putting money above all else. It's seriously the equivalent of feminism for men. Sure, it promotes some good things for the individual, but it's the forceful sacrifice of the community to reach those positives. It's a give and take. And as a society, do we really want to give up our community? Do we really want to give up that bond between man and woman for these individual benefits? And I think the clear answer is no. And I'd have to imagine the majority of you listening would be inclined to agree with me on that point. Even if you're the biggest Andrew Tate stan in the world, I think you can agree with me that we need to put down this materialistic view for a second. Just recognize how we're destroying our community because of our greediness and our individualistic identity. And of course, that's been created by all the isolation. Andrew Tate is just a response to the forceful isolation of the West and the modern man. and the modern woman, to be fair, but more specifically, the forced isolation of men. So, he's done good, but it's also important to recognize these negatives, and we need to call it out for what it is. We gotta call it out, or we're gonna let it have the exact same effects that feminism has had over the last century. I'm going to end the video. Excuse me. I am going to end this video on that note, though. So if you enjoyed, like, subscribe, share the video. I greatly appreciate it. It really helps me out. The only way we are going to take back the country is together. So join the fight. But like I said, I am heading out. So long. Peace out, and God bless y'all.